Now, there are 5 principles of lifelong learning that are in our mission statement. I want to touch on those really quickly. Blaine talked about truth. The second one is central classic. It says classic. The second one is mentors. Your first and most important mentor is your central classic. Okay? This is, for most people, their religious text. This is not a book with truth. This is not a classic with truth. This is the truth. It's your standard. And the article on it is called Your Standard for Truth. What are you going to gauge everything you study by? Because if you don't have a truth higher than yourself, you've become a law unto yourself. There is a higher law that governs this earth, and it's not just in the scientific realm. There are principles that govern every area of our lives, and like Blaine explained, they're the truth. And that's why Christ taught that they would make us free. If we will do our part, He will reveal them. So, Central Classic is something that you need to get in your hands. You need to have it in one hand and have what you're studying in the other hand. And there are some pointers that have helped me in that article that's online. You got to pull it offline. It's not in the course material. Anyway, that may help you. But fundamentally, when you study and think that you've happened upon a principle, go to that book and see if Skousen's right. Make sure he's right, and then begin to live it. So another mentor is going to be God. First and most important mentor is going to be the revelation that you receive as you study. Some of the most important things I've learned while I was studying were not written in a book. So be open to that. Know that when you open your heart and you start to get serious about trying to figure out what's right, that you'll receive truth. And the third one is going to be physical mentors. Mentors in the form of books, in the form of experiences, in the form of universities. Maybe Blaine and I will help be a mentor to some of you. Some of you have been mentors to me. And make sure that when you let someone mentor you, that you hold your central classic and God up higher than them. And secondly, that they have what you want. Make sure that mentor has what you want, and make sure they know how they got it. Okay? So, there are people who have great marriages, but they don't know why. You can't admire them, but they can't teach you how to do what they've done unless they know the principles that got them there. Okay? Because what are principles? They're universal. They're true for everyone all of the time. My application is not your application. My opinion is not your opinion. And how I listen to my children, and how I exercise and eat healthy, and how I become an owner, those principles apply to both of us, but how I do it's not really how you do it. Barson said the only thing we're teaching anyone is a principle. So that's what we're focused on now. We want to use classics, and so what I did was go back to my study and say, what were the most important classics that got me where I am? Where can we start? Because classics are classics because they hold true. Because they're true to human nature. And the article on classics, what are classics and why should I read them, helps you to understand. That one's also already posted on the website. That will help you understand things like human nature, natural law, principles, epiphanies. Man, I can't even remember everything. Some guidelines for what is in a classic and the beginnings of how to use them. Then discussion. This seems odd, maybe, but it's something we don't do. We don't do it effectively. When we watch TV, especially when we watch the news, you know what we learn? We learn that opinions are somehow valid, that they're somehow important, that what we ought to do is just have a lot of them and listen to a lot of other people's opinions, so we're all just always spinning our wheels, right? And it doesn't get anybody anywhere. And so what we want to do is move away from our opinions back to the principles, and discussion helps us do that. You have to make them part of you. And you have to be with people who can call you on it when you think you know what it is and you're just wrong. And it takes some courage to sit in a group and say, well, I think it's this, and have someone else say, no. But you see, this is the classical model, and there's a whole other speech I give about the history going back to Greece and Rome with these 5 lost educational principles. But discussion is part of the classical model that was done all the way through. And in fact, I have a friend who's talked a lot about, I think it's Oxford. Someone in their family went to Oxford, and I think it's Rob. His brother went to Oxford and came home. How'd you like Oxford? Well, it's just a glorified readings list. I mean, you know, they just tell you these books to read. And then, well, I guess you have this mentor, and I guess you sit in a room and talk to him and other people. But I mean, really, that's it. It's 10,000. It's 10 grand for. Well, because it's the classical model, because it's the right way to learn and make a part of you. And that's all they're doing in Oxford, is giving you classics and a mentor who happens to be the world expert on it, and then a group, a pod of 5 to 10 individuals who hash it out with you. So discussion is critical.